what do.
I'll kill you quickly.
Huh? What just happened?
Alright, so I've played a bunch of Wesker at pretty much every stage he's been in. PTB, release, post-hotfix, so I feel qualified to finally give my opinion on him. So in this video I will go over his power in relative detail, his perks, and what kind of perks might be good for him. I'm making this video with the hope of helping you, yes you, decide if Wesker is the killer for you, or if you at least would find him fun. This is not by any means a in-depth guide of any sort. If you want one of those in the same vein as my Oni guide, but for Wesker, let me know down in the comments. Firstly, before I even get into his power, let me say that with a full disclaimer, this is all my opinion, and I'm gonna give my first opinion right out of the gates, and I don't even think this is a controversial one. Wesker is the most map-dependent killer currently in Dead by Daylight. Yes, even more so than range killers or dredge. As he currently stands with his power, there are some maps that your power is definitely weaker on, and some portions of certain maps that it's just outright useless or maybe even actively bad to use his power. Even worse, if you get sent to a wide open map like Cold Wind, be prepared to have a very frustrating experience as you throw survivors around with your power and just can't damage them. He doesn't even perform super well on certain indoor maps either in my experience. You really need this kind of sweet spot where the map gives you enough room to use your power effectively, but enough obstacles to actually injure survivors with. So let's get into some more detail with Wesker. He is a 115% movement speed killer like most non-range killers, but he has a uniquely large terror radius. It's 40 meters, which is the largest static terror radius of any killer in the game. This can lead to some interesting builds and perk usage looking to abuse that. He has some pretty iconic voice lines for the Resident Evil fans out there, so we're all off to a great start here. That said, let's get a little more in-depth with his power. This is going to be a bit involved, so I'm just going to simplify it a lot. No big decimals, no technical words, me say simple things. You can hold the power button to charge your Virulent Bound. It has two charges. While holding your hand out like you're yelling on the phone, you move at the same speed that Hillbilly moves while charging his chainsaw. I feel like that's a good speed that most people are familiar with. Once your power is fully charged, you can dash forward in the direction you're facing until you collide with something or the dash is finished. If you have a second charge, you can reposition at 69% movement speed. Nice. For a second before you have to either reactivate the ability or deal with the cooldown. Second dash moves a little faster and goes a little farther. If Wesker collides with a survivor during this dash, he scoops him up, gives him some nasty worms, and continues the dash in that direction. If he hits a solid object, Wesker will slap the survivor into it, making them get ouchies. If the survivor is downed by this WWE move, Wesker will automatically begin to carry the survivor. If Wesker does not chokeslam the survivor into something, then at the end of the bound he will yeet the survivor like a football in the same direction, and be a little bit more winded. If the survivor collides with an object, then they will get ouchies. If not, they will no-sell the attack like it didn't even hurt them, and run away. Finally, if Wesker dashes into a drop pallet or a window vault, he will neo through the opening, but will be winded because he's secretly an old man. Now on to the second half of his power. Oh, what's that? You thought this was over? Oh, no. It is current year, so his power better read like a novel, or I'm refunding the DLC. Anyway. At the start of the trial, 6 supply cases spawn, each containing a can of Axe First Aid Body Spray, sponsored, with 2 uses. Once Wesker gives the survivor the wormies, they will gain infection, and they'll gain infection passively after that. Once the wormies have achieved
Complete global saturation.
the survivor will move 8% slower, and Wesker will automatically carry them regardless of their ouchies if he gets them off the top rope. The survivor can use half a can of Axe body spray like they're an 11-year-old boy getting ready for gym class, and suffocate the wormies and their chances of getting a date. As for the add-ons, most of them do something impactful, but believe it or not, his best 3 add-ons are actually all common or uncommon. Ouroboros Tendril, Loose Crank, and Leather Gloves are so good that after using them a bunch, it really hurts to take them off. Although quite a few of his add-ons do combo pretty well with each other. Together, the iridescent Ouroboros vial and the video conference device can really make survivors burn through the first aid sprays fast. The gold chalice and lion medallion can be really funny together, but they can actually definitely help you get hits on maps that don't have many obstacles. Now, on to the perks that Wesker comes with. Up first, we have Built Different. What's that? It's called Superior Anatomy? Well, that's lame. Feels like a big missed opportunity. Anyway, when a survivor performs a rushed vault within 8 meters of you, Superior Anatomy activates. While it's active, your next vault is increased by a certain percentage. It then deactivates and goes on cooldown for 30 seconds. The killers that want this perk are either ones that cannot easily play around a window, or have some powerful close-range lethality, such as Myers or Hillbilly. Next up, we have...
You can't hide forever.
Sorry, that's another missed opportunity. This one's called Awakened Awareness. While carrying a survivor, the auras of all other survivors within 20 meters of you are revealed. On the PTB, the aura reading actually lingered for another 2 seconds after you stopped carrying a survivor, which made it pretty good with Lethal Pursuer. Obviously, since the game has to be balanced around Nurse and not the other way around, that didn't make it to Live. The killers that want this perk as is are, funnily enough, the ones that can get on top of another survivor pretty quickly after getting a hook, like Nurse or Blight. It still works with Lethal Pursuer though, because it gives you the 2 seconds it had pre-nerf. I guess they just made it coded to where it's 0 seconds, which means Lethal Pursuer increases it by 2. Weird stuff. Finally, we have...
Complete global saturation.
Haha, man, I am 3 for 3 on this joke. It's called Terminus, which is a word that's never used in any Resident Evil game, not even once. I mean, there are computer terminals, like everywhere, so I guess that works. Anyway, Terminus says, once the exit gates are powered, all injured, dying, or hooked survivors suffer from the broken status effect until the exit gates are opened. This effect lingers for an additional 30 seconds after the exit gates are opened, and this perk works great for killers who can easily injure survivors like Legion or Huntress, and Otts recently put up a great video making the argument for it being good on Plague as well. Now, I would go over what perks I think are good for old Wesky, but then we'd be here all day, and this isn't a complete guide. So, TLDR, all of the chase perks people like on Wesker is kind of bait in my opinion. Dissolution, Bamboozle, Save the Best for Last, and Coup de Grace all performed very mediocre for me. And Stabiffle in particular felt like bait, because any situation where you would M1, you'd rather M2 and give them the wormies if you can help it. So the only chase perk I endorse on Wesker is Brutal Strength. You Wesk all over the place so fast that survivors can't really make distance when you break a pallet. Lastly, Blood Flavor would be good on him if it didn't get cleansed by the time I get the first hook in 90% of my games anyway. Alright, as for perks not focused on chasing, Wesker can pretty much make anything work. Aura reading is really sweet on him, so stuff like Barbecue and Chili, Lethal Pursuer, Floods of Rage are all primo options. And Wesker is mobile enough that you can kick gens pretty easily too, so stuff like Call of Brine and Eruption work great on him. Pain Resonance and Dead Man Switch is pretty much perk combo equivalent of Cockroach, like the apocalypse could happen, but it'll still be here. And of course, it's still good. Pentimento and Plaything are also solid picks in the current meta, one because Pentimento really increases the amount of time that gens take, and Plaything works really well with Wesker's large terror radius. Stealth perks like Tinkerer work great, since he's pretty quiet without his terror radius. And lastly, perks focused on his terror radius are pretty funny, but of any of them, I'd say Coulrophobia is the real deal. Unnerving Presence is kind of a bait, and Infectious Fright can work for you sometimes, but not always. Wesker has a pretty strong power that gives a good bit of slowdown innately, and can really get strong once all 12 uses of the first aid sprays are used up. That doesn't happen often, but when it does, you can pretty much just steamroll the survivors. That said, his power is not the most consistent or powerful, and despite many bug fixes, there is still plenty of bugs that can make his power do nothing or hinder your ability to win the game. Alright, all that said, PTB Wesker is the most fun I've ever had playing DBD. Release Wesker is the most frustrated I've ever been playing DBD. And post 6.2.2 Wesker is somewhere in between. He's a ton of fun, but he still just has a few too many bug fixes that need to be addressed. But as they fix his bugs and refine him, I feel he has the potential to be the most fun killer in Dead by Daylight. So, with all that said and done, thank you so much for watching, and please feel free to let me know what you think down in the comments down below. If you want me to make a longer version guide of Wesker, then please let me know that too. And feel free to put your Wesker builds down below as well. I'm really interested to see what you guys have been doing with Wesker. And that'll do it for today. Thanks so much. I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.